Welcome to episode 340 of the Selling Your Screenplay podcast. I'm Ashley Scott Meyers, screenwriter and blogger over at sellingyourScreenplay.com. Today I'm interviewing writer-director Ben Rood, who just did a cool little horror film called Don't Run. We dig into his background and how he was able to get this film produced, so stay tuned for that interview. If you find this episode valuable, please help me out by giving me a review in iTunes or leaving a comment on YouTube or retweeting the podcast on Twitter or liking or sharing it on Facebook. These social media shares really do help spread word about the podcast, so they're very much appreciated. Any websites or links that I mentioned in the podcast can be found on my blog in the show notes. I also publish a transcript with every episode in case you'd rather read the show or look at something later on. You can find all the podcast show notes at www.sellingyourscreenplay.com/podcast, and then just look for episode number 340. If you want my free guide, How to Sell a Screenplay in 5 Weeks, you can pick that up by going to sellingyourscreenplay.com/guide. It's completely free. You just put in your email address and I'll send you a new lesson once per week for 5 weeks, along with a bunch of bonus lessons. I teach the whole process of how to sell your screenplay in that guide. I'll teach you how to write a professional logline and query letter and how to find agents, managers, and producers who are looking for material. Really is everything you need to know to sell your screenplay. Just go to sellingyourscreenplay.com/guide. So a quick few words about what I'm working on. I'm still plugging away on my mystery thriller feature film, The Rideshare Killer. Just getting the various passes. Still have not quite made it to locked picture, so we're still just making edits to the picture. We haven't even started on the audio and that kind of stuff, but it's definitely coming along, and I'm hoping here in another week or two we'll probably be at least maybe a pass or two away from locked picture. We start thinking about maybe some reshoots, some little inserts. There might be a few little pickup shots that we need to go out and get. So that's kind of what I'm doing now. Also, the music I'm actually starting to settle on. There's a couple spots where we're going to need songs, so I'm listening to music, trying to figure out what songs would fit in that spot. Doing the credits too, that's actually something I was working on last night and this morning, is getting the credits, figuring out sort of what the opening title sequence is going to look like, where those credits are going to go in the story, or in the sort of the opening section, and then obviously the ending credits. We got to put that together, make sure that that's all complete. So a lot of sort of just ins and outs, nothing too earth-shattering to report on that project, but definitely is moving along. So the contest has ended. The SYS six-figure screenplay contest has closed on July 31st. So we've got all the submissions there. We're going to be reading through the scripts. We're going to be announcing in September the second round. The people that have made it into the second round will be making a big announcement. And then as the months go on, leading up into November, we'll be announcing our second round, the quarterfinalists and semifinalists, and ultimately the finalists, and the winner will probably come out in November. So if you'd enter that, stay tuned. We'll definitely be having an announcement hopefully soon on that. So now let's get into the main segment. Today I'm interviewing writer-director Ben Rood. Here is the interview. Welcome, Ben, to the Selling Your Screenplay podcast. I really appreciate you coming on the show with me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So to start out, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your background. Where did you grow up and how did you get interested in the entertainment business?
I grew up here where I am now in Cincinnati, and I would say my mom is probably the one that got me interested in filmmaking, which is my main pursuit. And she would have me watching all these old classics when I was little. She'd have me watching like The African Queen, and she had me watching Grapes of Wrath. But I was like 5 years old. And I was just kind of, I don't like this, but, she was very persistent, and she kind of just kept me watching had me watching those movies. And then after a while, it was just, all right, Mom, what are we watching tonight? And, it just, when you're starting that young, and she just loves movies, so it just kind of stuck. Huh. And so I love her for it.
Yeah. And so what was some of your first steps to actually turning this into a career? Were you that guy in high school that was making little shorts? Maybe talk about that process of actually getting out of high school. Did you go to film school? What were those next steps after high school?
Oh, yeah. So, I think I was like 16, and I'm sitting in front of my computer, and I just finished watching the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And I'm just kind of, that was an awesome movie. Again, black and white, old Mama Rood, she got me hooked on it. And I sat down in front of my computer and I just started writing a story. And I'd never written a screenplay, and I hated schoolwork. I spent more time cheating than studying, but I loved writing this story. And, before I knew it, I was just writing my version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. There was nothing special, but I was just kind of, wow, this feels great. And so in school, I got into like a couple of theater classes, and just to kind of be around some other people that had that kind of energy, because it's just they're few and far between. And then in that, I was just kind of, this is what I want to do. I tell my parents, and they're just, oh no, he wants to be a filmmaker. My dad, he's very smart. He just goes, you just got to know it's going to be tough. And I said, that's cool. I'm going to Ohio University Film School. And so got to film school, and what I noticed there was that everybody just wanted to be a writer. When you're getting a bunch of people together to go and make something, it's crazy how many people are just, they say, yeah, I'm here to be a screenwriter. And it's kind of, well, who's going to direct? Who's going to produce our stuff? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And just from there, I kind of realized, all right, I'm probably going to have to take it upon myself to actually get some of my stuff produced. And so while I was in school, I was able to rent their equipment, and I was able to just learn how to produce and direct my own material. And so that's really where I started making material, just the shorts and all that stuff. It all started in film school.
Yeah. So on IMDb, you have a couple of shorts listed, and I'm curious, maybe you can talk about doing those shorts briefly. How did they help prepare you for doing features? What did you do to market them? How did you raise funds? How did you get them done?
I would say in school, it was just kind of the mentality, we're going to make these shorts, and that's going to be our ticket to go and get bigger stuff made. And so we were on the street selling like grilled cheese sandwiches for $1 and just doing whatever we had to. I was donating blood plasma just like to try and get any cash that I could. And so, when we got enough people together, we were able to raise about $25,000 for a Civil War adaptation. And that was the biggest one. And you know what they ultimately did? We didn't make any money off of them, but they did land me a pretty sweet internship for an Emmy-winning visual effects company in Los Angeles. And so it's something that looked really good on our resume. When we're talking to employers, I'd say that was the biggest boost it got, as well as the experience for when it came time to making my first feature. So I'd kind of earned my stripes in that regard, doing a bunch of shorts, and then it was, okay, I think I'm ready to tell, a bigger movie.
Yeah. So let's jump into your latest feature film, Don't Run. Maybe to start out, you can give us a quick picture logline. What is that film all about?
So Don't Run is a story about a 15-year-old kid who's trapped in his house with a monster that'll eat him if he's not in bed every night by sundown.
That's very high concept. So where did this idea come from? What was sort of the genesis of it?
So I will say that after I lived in Los Angeles for a few years, and I really wasn't moving up the ladder or anything, it was just really hard to get people to read my scripts. It was just like college all over again, It's just a bigger pond. And so I'm going to have to produce my own stuff if I want to get out there. And so I was just kind of working on all these ideas. I know I want to make a feature-length movie, but what is the story I'm going to be able to tell with a low budget? But I don't want it to feel like a low-budget movie. Like telling a story is very, very important to me. Writers get that. Like, it's all about the story. And so I will say that I think just from working and thinking, I took a break one day and I went for a run. And I remember when I was running, it all just came to me. And I felt like something was chasing me. And, maybe it's like a dog chasing its own tail, but I just felt paranoid, like there was something that was after me. And it all just kind of came to me. It's like there's this kid, there's this monster that's going to be chasing him. And if he's not in bed every night, then it's going to eat him. And that's just the end of the story. The bed is the safe zone, that's the only place that you're safe. It's like when you're playing tag and you cross the line, it's up, can't get me. I'm in the safe zone. And that's what the bed is. But I will say, the script, the story, it's all about kind of facing your fears, without giving too much away. And I think there's a lot of reflection of me and facing my fears and always wanting to make a movie and just kind of putting it off, and finally just biting the bullet, doing it, and accepting that there's going to be an infinite amount of problems that I don't have all the answers for right now. But if it's what's in my heart, not to get super deep, then it's just what you got to go after.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about your writing process. And we can be specific to Don't Run, but if Don't Run was maybe not not like a lot of your other writing processes. You can maybe point that out. But where do you typically write, and when do you typically write? Do you go to Starbucks during the day? Do you work in the middle of the night? What does sort of your writing schedule look like?
Oh yeah, whatever. I actually love Starbucks coffee, and I know that they're just a big corporate chain. I'd love to support just mom and pop places. It's so good. It gets me real caffeinated. They had a seat for me whenever I would go there and I would work on it. And you know what? But the thing, I'll go there like whenever I can, and then I try and work from home, and I try and keep it just whenever I feel like doing it, And I think there's a great quote from Robert Rodriguez that I read, the guy who did El Mariachi, and he kind of like do-it-yourself sort of filmmaker. Mm-hmm. And he says, because it's hard to find the inspiration to sit down and write, but when you do sit down, that's usually when the inspiration comes. And he said, if you don't have the answer, just start working on the problem, and eventually the motivation will come to you and you'll be able to find the solution. And so it doesn't matter. I'll sit down anywhere. If it's just kind of, I haven't written in a while. I just sit down, I just start just typing or just kind of like working on it, and then it comes to me. And then there's just one other strategy that I've really been using the past few years is I'll watch a movie and I'll write down everything that happens every single minute of the movie. And when you compare 3 or 4 movies like that and you're looking at all your notes, you're going to notice a lot of the same formulas. Different things are happening, but the same emotions are being conveyed at that point in the story. And so if you can just kind of take the formula that you like or take a similar movie, then you can just switch that out with the elements of your script. And it's just kind of like a mix and match game.
Yeah, good advice. That is a great exercise. Maybe you can talk about just the outlining versus actually writing in final draft. How much time do you spend preparing, outlining, think about the idea, and then how much time do you spend actually in final draft cranking out, script pages?
Oh, a lot. I outline a ton. I know there's some people that can just say, I'm just going to go in there and I'm just going to start working in final draft, and I'm just jealous. I don't know how you do that. That's just like even more rewriting than the regular process for me. I have to go in there and I outline pages and pages and pages and all these note cards, and there's all of these notes on the note cards, and then I'm rearranging them all. And then finally, when I can really see it in my head, that's when I go to final draft. Because I see final draft kind of like a typewriter. You go in there, and when you make a mistake, it's just, nuts. I got to go in there, and it just sucks so much more when you make a mistake when you're actually writing it than when you're actually doing the outline. For me, that's how I feel. There's always that little bit of fear of just, it feels better going in knowing what you're going to do.
Yeah. So no, I totally agree. I feel like it makes the rewriting, I have a lot of trouble with rewrites when the thing gets really cumbersome, and I feel like being more prepared helps alleviate that at the end. More preparation in the beginning helps you alleviate a lot of that work at the end. How long does it typically take you to write a script? Like for this one, you outlined it for a while. How long from start to finish until you had a draft that you were confident in?
So this one, you know what? It all came to me kind of like a fever dream, just because I was so pumped up and fired up, and it was just my main focus of everything that I was doing. And I think the first draft was done in about 6 months, and that's the fastest I've ever written anything. And then, I think 3 months later, I had my shooting script. It takes me a while. We've got shooting for my next movie coming in September, and that's something that I've just been pulling hairs on for 2 years. And I will work and work and work. And I've had, I used to date this girl, and she would just say, you're going to be bald if you just like keep pulling hairs. You need to get it in front of people, get your feedback, and not just overanalyze everything. But I will say it usually takes me over a year to get me something that I really feel good about.
I gotcha. You just mentioned too, you said you're gearing up for a project to shoot in this September. Is that correct?
Yep.
And what are you guys doing? I'm just curious. This is more of an aside. I'm curious, what are you guys doing with COVID? How are you guys preparing for that? In case you have to get shut down, or in case there's delays, or what is your preparation there?
Yeah, it's tough because we actually lost a little bit of money on some locations because we were supposed to start shooting a couple of weeks ago. When COVID was when we couldn't have anticipated it and how big it was going to be. So we're just having to work into our rental agreements and all of our contracts that there's going to be some wiggle room in case there's a pandemic or if there's a natural disaster. It's a pain in the butt, but it really opens your eyes to, Mother Nature has no wrath or fury or whatever that term is. It's just you don't mess with the mother.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just gotta work it in there and just give yourself that backup plan.
How are you finding working through with these locations and, crew and everybody? How are you finding, are they pretty reasonable about not, giving you a break since you couldn't shoot a couple weeks ago through no fault of your own?
It was tough. I had to make the executive decision to push till September. And I wanted to wait until there was a pretty decent buffer where it seemed like we were getting a handle on what was going on. And I just said, you know what, guys, we could try and shoot earlier. But at the end of the day, no one's going to remember the pain of just having to wait a while to get this movie made. They're going to remember the finished product. And so let's take a few more months. Let's get ready. Let's use this as preparation. And let's bring our A game and just make something really special in September. And everybody's fired up. I mean, everybody was kind of, oh, but yeah, I'm down. Everybody's in there for the right reasons. They're not there for the paycheck. They're there to just make a good product. And it is what it is. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm trying to be greedy or anything like that. It's the most responsible move.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, so you're back to Don't Run. So you're working on the script. What does your development process looks like? It sounds like it takes you a year. During this year, do you wait the full year till you're happy before you get notes from other people? Is part of that year getting notes from other people? And what does your development process look like? Do you have some actors, some other producers, some other writers? Who do you get notes from?
I've got a lot of my buddies from film school. We all talk, and it's kind of our support group. And even we are all living together in LA, but we're all these guys that were from Ohio, and we talk every other day still. We're just, this is what I'm working on. Can you tell me what this looks like? But you only really get one chance for a first impression, so it's kind of scary to get it out there for the first time. But when you've got a version that you like, the best thing you can do is get other eyes on it, because that's the end game, right? Is you're going to show it to as many people as possible. So get it to a place that you feel good about it, that the gist is going to be there. Maybe it doesn't have to have all the typos, but to where the story can be conveyed and you can be taken seriously. That's when I show it to my buddies. But I don't show them a lazy copy. I don't show them something that it's going to say, oh yeah, I'm probably going to change this tomorrow. It's no, because then you're just wasting people's time. You have to respect their time and just have a version that you really, really like. That you're saying, okay, I'm pretty stuck, and I'm going to be stuck for a while until I, get some help on this.
Yeah. I'm curious, with Don't Run, it's kind of a high concept horror movie. I noticed the feature you're doing, I guess in September, is more of a comedy. Some of your shorts were more comedies. Is there a reason you decided for your first feature to go more with horror? Did you feel like that was a better genre for a low budget feature? What was some of your thinking in sort of coming to terms with why a horror versus a comedy or a drama or a thriller or any number of other genres?
Oh yeah, it was entirely budgetary, I will say, to go horror the first time. You always hear those stories about those micro budget horror movies, and a lot of them do pretty well. But you know what? I also was I wrote a couple of other horror movies, and I was thinking, you can't just go in this for the money. You have to stick to the budget, to be able to take something that's taken seriously. But I wasn't just going to go and make a horror movie just to make a horror movie. It had to be able to tell the story that I want to tell. There's definitely elements of comedy in Don't Run. I've always loved just being funny with people, and that's something that's always going to be there. But at the same time, it was kind of, the first thing I ever wrote was a remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I love horror. It's so much fun. Like, look at American Werewolf in London. That movie's hysterical, but it's terrifying at the same time. So I don't know. I'm kind of all over the map. The micro budget horror was definitely what got the wheels turning. And the more I thought about it, the more just all of the pieces kind of started falling into place.
I gotcha. Okay, so you have your script done. You've started to get production. What was the steps to actually raise money? Did you have some funding in place? Did you have some ways of raising money? Maybe talk us through that project. And again, I really appreciate you coming on and really being candid with us, because there's a lot of screenwriters that are listening to this now thinking, gee, maybe I could do this too. So maybe just give us a little of sort of your information. What did you do to get that script from page to screen?
Do you know any of this? Do you know any
I
of this
don't know. No,
backstory?
I'm asking this, Cole. But this, I ask all my guests to kind of give a tell us their story, and I find it usually very interesting and enlightening.
Yeah, man. Oh, this is where it gets good, because after Los Angeles, I was moving trees around for celebrities primarily for like $10 an hour, and I was just carrying these giant trees on my shoulder and digging them in the ground by myself, and I busted my back up. So I had to go home, and I had like $1 to my name. My parents took me in, and I had no money, and all I wanted to do was make a movie. It's what a terrible catch-22 that you're in. And so it was just kind of, all right, they gave me money to get my back fixed up. And I told them my master plan was I was going to take the next few years and I was going to go do more manual labor, save all my cash, live in their basement, and go and make a movie that I hadn't written yet. And it was just like, you know what? I'll put the work in. I love working hard. And I like the freedom. Like, who's going to stop me? And I'm back in Ohio. I tried it for years in Los Angeles, and it didn't work. And I was pissed. I was so pissed off. But it was like, you know what? No, I don't care. I don't care what they say. This is all I want to do. It keeps me up at night. And something in my belly is telling me that I got to take it upon myself. It's like that part in Rocky where he's talking to Adrian. And he's like, you know what? It's just about going the distance. I just got to, if I lose to Creed, if I make a crappy movie, it doesn't matter as long as I go the distance and try. And I'm just, yeah, man, I got you, Rock. And so I got a job moving furniture. And eventually I got a job as a part-time firefighter. And everybody knew what I was doing at work. They all knew that I was just there. And I was busting tail. At 2 Men a Truck, there's 7,000 employees or something in the country. They have me nationally ranked number 6. I was working my butt off. And I just saved my cash. And I went into production with about 20 grand in my pocket. And it took like a year and a half to save up or so. Maybe a little bit less than that. But and then we shot, and I spent the next couple of years editing it for another $20,000. I showed the raw footage to some editors around here that knew their way around, like professional software, all that good stuff. And they said, yeah, man, you're really onto something. You can tell that you put your heart into it. And like, yeah, we're gonna help you out. We just have to be able to work on it around our other projects. And you know what, man? It's done. And I started with $1 in my pocket, and I told the story I wanted to tell. An investor saw it, liked it, and offered me some money to make another movie. And we're going into production in a few months.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome, man. That's exactly the right attitude. I hope people are really listening to it. Just going to make it happen kind of attitude. I really commend you for that.
Yeah.
But how can people see this movie? What's the release schedule going to be like?
For this next one?
Yeah. For Don't Run.
Oh, Don't Run is streaming on Amazon Prime right now.
Okay.
And I put it up on Halloween, and over the past couple of months, it's been watched over 100,000 times.
Nice.
And so if that's not getting your material out there, I don't know what is.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I'm out of my parents' basement. I'm in an apartment right now, and I'm running a business, and I'm making money off of it. Mm-hmm. You can learn a lot about Facebook advertising. That's what I spend a lot of my time doing right now, and just learning about marketing. You've got to learn how to do that. It's very, very important. I'm reading a book on it right now. Reading a few books on it right now. But yeah, Amazon Prime. Go watch it for free with your Prime account and check out the reviews. It's nuts. People love it or hate it. And I will say the reviews that are good usually seem pretty educated. And the people that don't like it are usually the people that are dumber than a sack of bricks. It's got some subtext to it, so I like to think. Sorry if that was rude.
Yeah, no, not at all. Not at all. I got you. Perfect. And I always like to end these interviews too. Is there anything out there that you've seen recently that you thought was really great? Just something that maybe is a little under the radar that you could recommend to our listeners?
Oh, man. If you haven't seen Green Room, you got to go and watch Green Room. It's on Netflix. They just added it so you can watch it for free with your account. And one other one, I just started it, and I was getting tired, so I couldn't finish it. But I was watching The Discovery with Jason Segel, and it's about Robert Redford as a doctor. He's like a neurosurgeon, and he finds out that there's an afterlife after you die. So now people are faced with the decision of whether to off themselves and get to this afterlife sooner, or to, cherish the life that you have to live right now. And so I got about half an hour in. I'm like, this is incredible. And I'm tired though. This is something that's going to probably take all of my concentration.
Yeah, I gotcha. Perfect. And what's the best way for people to keep up with what you're doing? Twitter, Facebook, a blog, anything you're comfortable sharing, I'll round up for the show notes.
Yeah, you can follow what we're doing on don'trunmovie.com. And I'm on Facebook as Ben Rood. And you can find me on Instagram under Rudy Pics, spelled like my name.
Gotcha. Well, Ben, I really appreciate you taking some time to come and talk with me today. Good luck with this film, and you're always, invited back. So when you get your next film done, let's talk about that one too.
Awesome. Cool. So, Ashley, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. I just want to talk quickly about SYS Select. It's a service for screenwriters to help them sell their screenplays and get writing assignments. The first part of the service is the SYS Select Screenplay database. Screenwriters upload their screenplays along with a logline, synopsis, and other pertinent information like budget and genre, and then producers search for and hopefully find screenplays they want to produce. Dozens of producers are in the system looking for screenplays right now. There have been a number of success stories come out of the service. You can find out about all the SYS Select successes by going to sellingyourscreenplay.com/success. Also on SYS podcast episode 222, I talked with Steve Deering, who was the first official success story to come out of the SYS Select database. When you join SYS Select, you get access to the screenplay database along with all the other services that we're providing to SYS Select members. These services include the newsletter. This monthly newsletter goes out to a list of over 400 producers who are actively seeking writers and screenplays. Each SYS Select member can pitch one screenplay in this monthly newsletter. We also provide Screenwriting Leads. We have partnered with one of the premier paid Screenwriting Leads services, so I can syndicate their leads to SYS Select members. There are lots of great paid leads coming in each week from our partner. Recently, we've been getting 5 to 10 high-quality paid leads per week. These leads run the gamut. There's producers looking for a specific type of spec script to producers looking to hire a screenwriter to write up one of their ideas or properties. They're looking for shorts, features, TV, and web series pilots, all types of projects. If you sign up for SYS Select, you'll get these leads emailed directly to you several times per week. Also, you get access to the SYS Select forum, where we will help you with your logline and query letter and answer any screenwriting related questions that you might have. We also have a number of screenwriting classes that are recorded and available in the SYS Select forum. These are all the classes that I've done over the years, so you'll have access to those whenever you want once you join. The classes cover every part of writing your screenplay, from concept to outlining to the first act, second act, third act, as well as other topics like writing short films and pitching your projects in person. Once again, if this sounds like something you'd like to learn more about, please go to sellingyourscreenplayselect.com. Again, that is sellingyourscreenplayselect.com. On the next episode of the podcast, I'm going to be interviewing writer Justin Sloan. I had Justin on the podcast previously a couple of years ago. It's episode number 131 if you want to check that out. Justin actually optioned a screenplay using the SYS email and fax blast service, so we're going to discuss that a little bit next week, but that's not really what the podcast is about. Justin is currently making his living writing fiction for the Amazon Kindle market. I've bumped into a number of authors that are making money with this marketplace, and Justin was kind enough to come on the podcast and give us some real nuts and bolts details on exactly how to do this. This is basically novel writing. It's not screenwriting, but I thought it would be useful to the listeners, as I know a lot of the screenwriters who listen to this podcast, they also do write novels, and this really is a marketplace for novels. As with everything in life, it's not easy to make a living doing this. However, nothing in the arts ever is, and I would say this is probably one of the more realistic ways to actually make money from fiction writing. So if you have an interest in fiction writing, specifically novels, this will definitely be an episode you want to check out. But overall, Justin, as I said, he's a writer in many, many different forms, whether it be screenwriting or novel writing. So he has a lot of insight sort of in how all this process works and comes together. So keep an eye out for that episode next week. That's our podcast. Thank you for listening.